5-year-old points to a firefighter in court. What happens next is unbelievable. The Springfield County Courthouse was packed that Monday morning. After 6 months of accusations, speculation, and a divided community, the case that had shaken this small western Massachusetts town was finally coming to an end. That's when little Emily Wilson, just 5 years old, entered the courtroom holding her grandmother's hand. An absolute silence fell over the room as Judge Margaret Reynolds leaned gently toward the little girl. No one expected a child so small could completely change the course of that trial. Least of all firefighter Robert Collins, who for months had faced accusations of negligence during the rescue at Sunshine Daycare Center. "Emily, can you identify the person who was at the daycare that day?" asked the judge in a soft voice. The little girl, with her big brown eyes and pink bows in her hair, looked around the room. Without hesitation, she pointed directly at Robert and exclaimed in a firm voice, "He's the one who saved me when everyone else ran away." At that moment, silent tears rolled down the firefighter's face. After months of being treated as guilty, someone was finally telling the truth. Emily's grandmother, Martha, a 68-year-old woman who had been raising her granddaughter since her daughter left to try to make a life in another state, squeezed the girl's hand. She knew how much it had cost to bring her granddaughter to that intimidating environment, but she also knew it was the only way to do justice to the man who saved Emily. Victoria Miller, the daycare director, shifted uneasily in her chair. Since the incident, she had done everything to transfer the blame for what happened to the fire department, especially to Robert, who led the rescue operation. "Your Honor, with all due respect, we cannot base a judgment on the testimony of such a young child who has been through trauma," argued the director's lawyer. The judge adjusted her glasses. "The testimony will be considered within the circumstances, Counselor. Let's proceed with the questions." Robert observed everything with a lump in his throat. At 42, he had dedicated half his life to the fire department. He never imagined he would be sitting there, being judged for negligence in what he considered to be one of the most difficult and successful rescues of his career. Dear listener, if you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to this channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The story began 6 months earlier on an autumn morning. Sunshine Daycare Center, located in a quiet neighborhood of Springfield, was known for being one of the most traditional in the city. That day, while 28 children were doing activities in their respective rooms, a short circuit in the kitchen's electrical system started a fire. Robert and his team arrived less than 10 minutes after the first call. The situation was already critical, with smoke escaping from several windows of the single-story building. Following protocol, he divided his team. 2 firefighters would attack the source of the fire, while he and another colleague would begin rescuing the children. What no one knew was that Emily, after being frightened by the commotion, had hidden inside a closet in the most remote room of the daycare. In the chaos of the evacuation, with teachers trying to coordinate the exit of dozens of frightened children, no one noticed her absence until everyone was already outside. "Emily's missing," shouted one of the teachers when they did a count in the outdoor playground. "She was in the reading corner." It was at that moment that Robert, even after having already made 2 trips into the building, decided to go in again. The smoke was denser and the fire was advancing rapidly. "Bob, it's too risky," warned his colleague Mark over the radio. "The roof could give way at any moment." "There's a child in there, I can't leave her," he responded, adjusting his mask and entering the building again. After minutes that seemed like hours to those watching from outside, Robert emerged with a small bundle in his arms, Emily unconscious but breathing. Everyone celebrated the rescue as a miracle. In the first 24 hours, Robert was treated as a hero. Local news highlighted his courage and determination. The girl was taken to City Hospital, where she received treatment for smoke inhalation and remained under observation for 2 days. However, the climate changed dramatically when, 3 days later, Director Victoria Miller gave an interview to the local press, stating that the fire only took such large proportions because there was a delay in the firefighters' response, especially in Robert's leadership. He prioritized the part of the building where there were no children and wasted precious time. If he had followed the protocol correctly, The fire would not have caused so much damage and no child would have been at risk, she declared at the time. The accusation fell like a bomb on the town. Suddenly, the hero became a villain. An administrative inquiry was initiated against Robert, and soon the situation escalated to a negligence lawsuit. Public opinion turned against him, with parents of students demanding severe punishment. Some residents even began to avoid him on the streets. The worst part was that his own colleagues from the department began to distance themselves, fearful of being associated with the case. Only Claire Thomas, a firefighter for 15 years and a longtime friend, remained unconditionally by his side. "I've known you for more than a decade, Bob. I know what kind of professional you are. I won't abandon you now," she would say, as they drank coffee in the small kitchen at the station, which was now frequently empty when he was present. The impact on Robert's personal life was devastating. Divorced for 5 years, he lived alone in a modest apartment near the fire station. His ex-wife Amanda limited visits from his son Tyler, 12, citing concerns about the situation. For a man who had dedicated his life to saving people, seeing himself isolated and treated as negligent was a daily torture. Martha, meanwhile, watched everything with growing indignation. She didn't believe the accusations against the firefighter. Her granddaughter had been saved by him, and something told her that the story told by the director didn't make sense. "Grandma, why are people saying bad things about the firefighter?" Emily asked one night, as her grandmother braided her hair before bedtime. "At school, Juliana's mom said he's bad." "No, sweetheart, he's not bad. Sometimes people say things without knowing the whole truth," replied Martha, bothered by the impact of the gossip on the child. It was this conversation that made Martha make a decision. The next morning, she put Emily on the bus and they went to the fire station. She wanted to personally thank the man who saved her granddaughter and better understand what had really happened. When they arrived, they were received with suspicion. Commander Paul Simpson hesitated to let her speak with Robert, concerned about the repercussions for the already fragile department with the case. "Ma'am, I understand your intention, but there's an ongoing process. Any contact between firefighter Collins and the victim's family could be misinterpreted," he explained. "Victim? My granddaughter is alive thanks to him," protested Martha, attracting glances from other firefighters passing by. Claire, who was watching the scene, decided to intervene. "Commander, with all due respect, I don't think there's a problem with a brief meeting, as long as it's supervised. After all, the child didn't suffer permanent damage and the grandmother came to express gratitude, not accusations." Reluctantly, the commander agreed. Robert was called to the meeting room, where he found Martha and Emily waiting. The firefighter could barely contain his emotion at seeing the girl, healthy, smiling shyly at him. "Hi, firefighter," said Emily, extending a colorful drawing she had made. In it, a figure in a red uniform carried a girl in a blue dress out of a burning building. Robert knelt down to the child's height. "Hi, Emily. What a beautiful drawing. It's you saving me. Grandma told me how brave you were." Martha observed the interaction with tears in her eyes. She had no doubts. This man didn't deserve the treatment he was receiving. "Mr. Collins, I came to personally thank you for what you did. Emily is everything I have in life. I don't know what would have happened if it weren't for you," she said, extending her hand. Robert shook Martha's hand, feeling for the first time in months that someone really believed in him. "Ma'am, I was just doing my job. Any firefighter would have done the same." "That's not what the daycare director has been saying around town," commented Martha with indignation in her voice. "That woman is determined to blame you for everything." Robert sighed. "It's complicated. When something like this happens, someone always needs to be held responsible. Unfortunately, this time I was the chosen one." Martha realized how much this man was suffering and made another important decision. "You have my support. If you need me to testify, or even if Emily needs to tell what really happened, you can count on us." "You would do that?" asked Robert, surprised. "I would and I will. The truth needs to come out." That meeting changed everything. For the first time since the beginning of the nightmare, Robert felt hope. Perhaps with the testimony of Martha and Emily, he could clear his name. What he didn't know was that Director Victoria had her own plans. Upon learning of the meeting between Robert and Emily's family, through one of the firefighters who sympathized with her side of the story, she immediately contacted her lawyer. "He's trying to influence the witnesses, Richard. That's not allowed," she exclaimed on the phone. The lawyer, Richard Matthews, an ambitious man who saw this case as an opportunity for visibility, assured her that he would use this information to his advantage. "Don't worry, Victoria. This will only further weaken his position. Continue maintaining the version that he ignored protocol and poorly prioritized the rescue." What no one suspected was that Victoria had a very personal reason for transferring the blame. Months before the fire, she had received a safety report indicating problems in the daycare's electrical system. To save money, she opted to make only superficial repairs instead of the complete renovation recommended. If this information came to light, her negligence would be exposed, and both her career and the reputation of the daycare would be ruined. Meanwhile, Martha began her own investigation. As a longtime resident of the town, she knew many people, including Josephine, who had worked in cleaning at the daycare for more than 10 years. "Joe, I need to better understand what happened that day," Martha asked as the two had coffee in the small kitchen of the employee's house, in a simple neighborhood on the outskirts of town. Josephine looked around as if checking if there was anyone listening. "Mrs. Wilson, I shouldn't be saying this, but that daycare had serious problems. More than once I warned the director about the wires that sparked in the kitchen. She always said she would fix it, but she never really did. And on the day of the fire, it was crazy. When the fire started, the first thing that didn't work was the alarm. You know why? Because the director had deactivated the automatic system. Said it went off for no reason and scared the children." Martha was shocked by the revelation. "Joe, did you tell this to the police?" The woman lowered her gaze. "I tried, but the director threatened to fire me. I have 3 children to support by myself, Mrs. Wilson. I can't lose my job." "I understand, but what if I could somehow protect you?" The conversation with Josephine gave Martha more determination. She needed to find evidence of Victoria's negligence to clear Robert's name. As a first action, she requested through the public defender assigned to her copies of the daycare's safety reports from recent years. While Martha investigated, Robert faced his own demons. The possibility of losing the job he loved tormented him. On a particularly difficult night, Claire found him at the station hours after the end of his shift, staring fixedly at the photo of his first class of firefighters. "Hey, shouldn't you be at home?" she asked, sitting beside him. "I can't. Sleep anyway," he replied without taking his eyes off the photograph. "Bob, you can't give up. It's 20 years of exemplary career against an unfounded accusation. And what good does that do? The whole town has already condemned me, even Tyler." His voice failed when mentioning his son. "Amanda said he's embarrassed to tell people at school that I'm his father." Claire put her hand on her friend's shoulder. "Children absorb what adults say. When all this passes, he'll understand." "And if it doesn't pass? And if I'm found guilty?" "You won't be. That lady, the girl's grandmother, she believes in you." "I believe in you, and I'm sure more people will believe when they know the truth." The next day, something unexpected happened. Martha and Emily appeared at Robert's small apartment. Claire had provided the address, believing that contact with the people he saved could help lift his spirits. "Sorry to show up without warning," said Martha, when Robert opened the door, visibly surprised. "We brought a cake. I know it's not much, but please come in," he invited, quickly trying to organize the messy living room. He hadn't received visitors in months. Emily entered skipping, carrying a new drawing. While the girl distracted herself coloring more sheets at the small coffee table, Martha and Robert talked about the case. "I got the safety reports through my lawyer," explained Martha. "And you know what I found out? In the last 3 years, the daycare was notified 4 times about electrical problems. The director signed commitments to fix them, but the technicians never returned to verify if the changes were actually made. That could help prove there was no negligence on my part," said Robert, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Exactly. And there's more. I talked to Jo from cleaning. She told me about the deactivated alarm." While they talked, Emily explored the apartment with the curiosity typical of a 5-year-old. On the bookshelf in the living room, she found a photo album and began to flip through it. "Grandma, look. There are lots of children in the firefighters' photos," she called enthusiastically. Martha and Robert approached. The album contained photos of various rescues he had performed over the years, with special emphasis on those involving children. "I keep a memento of every important rescue I've participated in," he explained, a little embarrassed. "It helps to remember why I chose this profession." Martha flipped through the album, impressed with this man's dedication. Suddenly, she stopped at an old photo from almost 25 years ago. It showed a young, newly graduated firefighter carrying a teenage girl out of a building. "My God," murmured Martha, bringing her hand to her mouth. "This is Lisa, my daughter." Robert looked more carefully at the photo. "The fire at the state high school in 1998? Yes, that was one of my first rescues. You saved Emily's mother, and now you've saved her daughter too," said Martha with tears in her eyes. "This can't be a coincidence." That revelation established an even stronger connection between them. Robert told about the rescue of Lisa, how he found her unconscious in the high school library, where a short circuit had also started a fire during an after-hours tutoring session. "And where is your daughter now?" he asked. Martha sighed. "Lisa left home 3 years ago, when Emily was only 2. She said she needed to find her own way, that she wasn't ready to be a mother. She sends news from time to time, but she's never come back. I think she's in Albany, working at some hotel. I'm sorry." "Me too." Emily asks about her mother almost every day. This coincidence strengthened Martha's determination to clear Robert's name even more. If this man had saved 2 generations of her family, the least she could do was help him now. Dear listener, if you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to this channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, in the days that followed as the trial approached, Victoria Miller realized that her position was weakening. Through contacts at City Hall, she learned that Martha had requested the safety reports and spoken with Josephine. It was just a matter of time until the structural failures of the daycare were exposed. In a desperate attempt, Victoria decided to play her last card. She arranged a meeting with Martha at a bakery near the central square. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Wilson," said Victoria, with her best rehearsed smile when the older woman arrived. "I was surprised by your invitation, Victoria. What do you want to talk about?" asked Martha, staying on the defensive. After a few minutes of superficial conversation, Victoria finally revealed her intentions. "I know you've been quite involved in Firefighter Collins' case. I'm just seeking the truth. The truth can be interpreted in different ways, Mrs. Wilson." Victoria opened her purse and took out an envelope. Inside here are $50,000. It's enough to cover the respiratory treatments that Emily still needs because of the smoke inhalation, and there will still be enough left to guarantee her education for a good while. Martha looked at the envelope, astonished. "What are you suggesting?" "Just that you reconsider your involvement in the case. It wouldn't be necessary to lie, just not show up to court with the girl. Say that Emily is still too traumatized to face all that." For a moment, Martha felt tempted. The money really would help a lot. Her teacher's pension barely covered basic expenses, and Emily's treatments were expensive. But then she thought of Robert, the photo album, how he had saved her daughter and now her granddaughter. "I'm not interested," she replied, standing up. "And if you try to bribe me again, I'll add that to the complaints against you." Victoria quickly changed strategies. "Think of your granddaughter, Mrs. Wilson. The respiratory treatment she needs isn't cheap. What if the after effects get worse? What if she has permanent problems because of the smoke inhalation?" Martha's concern for Emily's health was real. Despite appearing well, the girl still had episodes of coughing and difficulty breathing, especially at night or during physical activities. Doctors had said it might be temporary, but it could also evolve into something chronic. Upon returning home that night, Martha faced a crisis of conscience. The money really would make a difference in their lives. However, as she put Emily to bed, the girl had a nightmare. "Grandma, I dreamed I was trapped in the closet again with a lot of smoke," said Emily, crying. "But the firefighter couldn't find me this time." Martha hugged her granddaughter, dispelling any doubt she might have had. "Don't worry, my love. In real life, he found you, and we're going to help him now." The next morning, Martha sought out Claire at the fire station. She told her about Victoria's attempt at bribery and asked how they could use that information. "That proves her desperation," said Claire. "But without concrete evidence, it would be your word against hers. We need something more substantial to present in court." "Like the original safety report documents?" suggested Martha. "Exactly. If we can prove she ignored warnings about electrical problems and deactivated the alarms, the negligence will change sides." Meanwhile, Robert received an unexpected visit at his home, his son Tyler, brought by Amanda. "Son," exclaimed Robert, surprised and emotional to see the boy at the door. It had been almost 2 months since he had been able to spend time with him. Tyler, a boy tall for his 12 years, seemed nervous, shifting his weight between his feet while avoiding direct eye contact with his father. "Hi, Dad," Amanda intervened. "He wanted to see you despite everything, and I thought it would be good for you two to talk." Robert invited them both in. Amanda explained that she would wait at the coffee shop on the corner, giving father and son space. When they were alone, an uncomfortable silence hung between them. Tyler finally spoke. "At school, there are some kids who keep saying things about you, Dad." Robert sat down next to his son on the sofa. "What things, son?" "That you were irresponsible, that because of you, children at the daycare almost died." The boy's voice faltered. "I got in a fight with them. The principal suspended me for 2 days." "Tyler, I told them it was a lie, that my dad would never do that," exploded the boy, finally letting the tears escape. "You didn't do that, did you, Dad?" Robert hugged his son tightly. "No, son, I did everything I could to save all those children, and I succeeded. None of them were seriously injured." "Then why is everyone speaking badly about you?" "Sometimes, when accidents happen, people look for someone to blame. It's easier to point a finger at one person than to accept that some events are complex and have many causes." Tyler wiped away his tears. "Can I go to the courthouse? I want to be there with you." Robert hesitated. He didn't want to expose his son to that environment, but he understood that for Tyler, being present was a way to demonstrate his support and confidence. "If your mother agrees, yes, but it won't be easy, son. I don't care. I want everyone to know that I believe in you." The day of the trial finally arrived. The Springfield County Courthouse was packed. On one side, Robert, accompanied by his lawyer Claire, and to his surprise, Tyler and Amanda. On the other, Victoria Miller, her lawyer Richard, and several parents of daycare students. Martha and Emily arrived a few minutes before the start. The girl, dressed in her best blue dress with pink bows in her hair, firmly held her grandmother's hand. When she spotted Robert, she waved enthusiastically, causing whispers among those present. The prosecution lawyer, Richard Matthews, began by presenting his version of the facts. Robert had incorrectly followed the rescue protocol, which caused an unnecessary delay in controlling the fire. In his narrative, little Emily only needed to be rescued because the firefighter did not act appropriately from the beginning. When it was the defense's turn, Robert's lawyer, Dr. Michael Peterson, presented a technical analysis of the fire conducted by an independent expert. The conclusion was clear. The fire spread rapidly due to the precarious conditions of the electrical installation and the absence of automatic alarm and containment systems. Several testimonies were heard throughout the day. Former daycare employees confirmed that there were known structural problems. Fellow firefighters attested to Robert's competence and professionalism. A crucial moment came when Josephine, overcoming her fear of reprisals, testified about the deactivated alarm and the multiple ignored warnings about electrical problems. Victoria counterattacked, presenting an edited video of the rescue, which seemed to show hesitation on Robert's part before entering the building for the 3rd time. However, the defense quickly pointed out that the video had been manipulated, omitting the seconds in which the firefighter received critical information over the radio about the likely location of the missing child. The atmosphere became even more tense when Richard Matthews tried to disqualify Josephine's testimony, mentioning a history of conflicts with Victoria. The employee, feeling humiliated, almost gave up continuing her testimony. It was at this moment that Judge Margaret Reynolds decided to take a break. "We'll return in 15 minutes, she announced, "and when we return, I would like to hear the testimony of minor Emily Wilson if her grandmother allows. During the break, Martha approached Robert. We're doing well, she said. The technical testimonies are dismantling Victoria's version. I'm worried about Emily, he replied. Are you sure she's prepared to face this? Martha smiled. It was her idea. Last night she told me, Grandma, I want to tell everyone how... The firefighter found me when I was very scared. When the trial resumed, little Emily was called to testify. As she was a minor, the judge ordered the room to be partially emptied, allowing only the presence of directly involved parties and their legal representatives. Emily sat in a special chair close to the judge's bench. Victoria and Richard protested, claiming the girl was too young to testify, but the magistrate maintained her decision. Emily, can you tell the judge what happened that day at the daycare? Dr. Michael gently asked. The girl looked at her grandmother, who nodded encouragingly. I was in the green room reading a book about butterflies, she began, with a surprisingly firm voice for someone so young. Then everyone started screaming and running. There was smoke coming under the door. And what did you do? Continued the lawyer. I was scared, really scared. Everyone was screaming and I couldn't find Miss Rita, my teacher. So I hid in the big closet, the one where we keep the nap mats. And then it got very hot and the smoke came into the closet too. I wanted to call Grandma, but I couldn't talk, I just coughed. Silent tears rolled down Martha's face. Robert remained motionless, mentally reliving each second of that rescue. That's when I heard someone calling me, continued Emily. It was a strong voice, but not angry. It was the firefighter, she pointed directly at Robert. He opened the closet and picked me up. He told me not to be afraid, that he would get me out of there. Do you remember how you left the building? He put a mask on my face, like the ones doctors wear, only different. And he wrapped me in a wet cloth. He told me to close my eyes and not open them until he said so. I felt him running, and then there was a lot of light. Richard Matthews intervened, trying to confuse the girl. But how are you sure it was Mr. Collins who saved you? You were scared, with smoke all around. It could have been any firefighter. Emily looked directly at the lawyer, without hesitating. I know it was him because I saw his face when he took off his mask outside. And also because he has a turtle drawing on his arm. She pointed to Robert's right forearm, where there was a small sea turtle tattoo, a memento from his youth. I saw it when he carried me. The precision of this detail, which had not been mentioned in any previous testimony, caused a murmur in the room. It was impossible for the girl to know this if she hadn't really been rescued by Robert. Victoria's face paled. Her plan was crumbling. In one last desperate attempt, her lawyer questioned, Don't you find it strange that the firefighter took so long to find you? If he had acted correctly from the beginning, you wouldn't have been in so much danger. That's when something unexpected happened. Emily had a sudden coughing fit, a consequence of the respiratory after-effects that still persisted. In seconds, the crisis intensified, frightening everyone in the room. My granddaughter needs air, exclaimed Martha, running to her. Without hesitation, Robert stood up and went to the girl. With the experience of someone who had dealt with countless emergencies, he positioned her correctly, guiding breathing techniques while requesting that someone open the windows. Belly breathing, Em, remember? Like we do at the doctor's, he said calmly, referring to techniques he had learned accompanying the girl to some medical appointments after the fire. Air through the nose, fill the belly, release slowly through the mouth. In less than a minute, the crisis began to subside. When the paramedics arrived, called by the courthouse security, Emily was already breathing normally, clinging to the firefighter who had helped her in critical moments twice. You see, Your Honor, commented Michael, addressing the judge. This is the man they're accusing of negligence. The scene had a great impact on everyone present. Seeing Robert acting with such competence and care completely dismantled the image of a negligent professional they were trying to build. Even some parents of students who supported Victoria began to question if they were on the wrong side. After Emily's recovery, the judge suggested ending the session and continuing the next day. Martha agreed, concerned about her granddaughter's health. Before leaving, however, Emily insisted on completing her testimony. Do you have anything else to say, dear? The judge asked gently. Yes, Judge. The firefighter is a hero. He saved Me when everyone ran away. And he's sad because people are telling lies about him. It's not fair." The simplicity and sincerity of those words were more powerful than any technical argument presented until then. As they left the courthouse, several people who had previously looked at Robert with suspicion now showed respect. One mother even approached to apologize for having believed the accusations. The next morning, before the trial resumed, a new fact surprised everyone. An anonymous email arrived at the court containing scanned copies of the original daycare safety reports, with Victoria's handwritten notes indicating that the necessary repairs would be postponed indefinitely due to budgetary issues. Victoria panicked when she saw the documents. Confronted by the judge about the authenticity of the notes, she ended up confessing that she had manipulated information to transfer the blame to the fire department. "I had no choice," she exclaimed, losing her composure. "If they discovered that I ignored the warnings about the electrical problems, my career would be over. Besides, the insurance wouldn't cover the damages if the administration's negligence was proven." Her confession sealed the fate of the case. Judge Margaret Reynolds didn't need much time to elaborate her decision. In view of the technical evidence, the coherent testimonies and the confession of the defendant herself, this court finds firefighter Robert Collins completely innocent of the accusations of negligence. More than that, it recognizes his exemplary conduct in the rescue of minor Emily Wilson and in the help provided during her respiratory crisis in this courtroom. The room erupted in applause. Tyler ran to hug his father, followed by Amanda, who for the first time in months gave Robert a look of pride. Claire and other firefighter colleagues present formed a small honor guard when he left the courthouse. As for Victoria, she would be investigated for document falsification and administrative negligence, with the possibility of facing criminal charges for her actions. The decision brought immediate relief to Robert, but the true recovery process would be longer. The experience left deep marks, and he knew that rebuilding his reputation in the community would take time. 2 weeks after the trial, Robert was formally reinstated to the fire department with all honors. His commander organized a small ceremony, which was attended by Martha, Emily, Tyler, and Amanda, as well as several town residents who wanted to show their support. "On behalf of the department, we apologize for the way you were treated during this period," declared the commander. "Your exemplary conduct in the rescue at Sunshine Daycare Center is an example for all of us." Dear listener, if you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to this channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. During the ceremony, Emily presented Robert with a box full of drawings made by her and her school friends, all depicting rescue scenes with heroic firefighters. "Now everyone in my class wants to be a firefighter when they grow up," she said proudly. Robert knelt to thank her. "Did you know you're a hero too, Em? Your testimony was very brave." The girl smiled, revealing a missing baby tooth. "Grandma says we always have to tell the truth, even when it's hard." Martha observed the scene with emotion. Despite all the difficulties, that experience had brought special people into her and Emily's lives. Robert had become a dear friend, almost a family member. Tyler frequently visited to play with Emily, treating her like the little sister he never had. Even Amanda, initially distant, now helped Martha with practical matters related to the girls' school needs. However, one concern still weighed on Martha's heart: Emily's health. Despite the gradual improvement, doctors warned that the respiratory treatment would need to continue for at least a year, with costs that her modest pension could barely cover. It was during one of these medical appointments that Robert, who now regularly accompanied Martha and Emily, had an idea. "Martha, I know Dr. Patrick Vaughan, a specialist in childhood respiratory problems. He works at the University Medical Center and coordinates a free treatment program for children with smoke inhalation after effects." "Really? I've never heard of that program," replied Martha, intrigued. "It's a pilot project, not widely publicized yet. Patrick himself was a victim of a fire as a child and dedicated his career to this area. I can talk to him about Em's case." The idea proved to be a blessing. Dr. Patrick not only included Emily in the program, but also became especially interested in her case, seeing an opportunity to study the long-term effects of smoke inhalation in young children. With proper and regular treatment, Emily's health improved considerably in the following weeks. The coughing fits became rare, and she returned to participating in all school activities, including physical education, which was previously a challenge. Meanwhile, inspired by the experience, Robert developed an educational fire prevention project aimed at schools. With Claire's help and the commander's support, he created an interactive program that taught children how to act in emergency situations, using Emily's own story as a positive example. Children need to learn that even when scared, they can make decisions that help in their rescue, he explained during presentations. Emily managed to be heard even hidden in the closet because she responded to calls, and that made it easier to find her. The project became a success, quickly expanding to schools throughout the region. Robert was frequently invited to give talks, taking with him little Emily, who loved telling her story to other children, always ending with, "And that's why firefighters are heroes." On a Sunday afternoon, while Robert was helping Martha assemble a new shelf for Emily's toys, the phone rang. It was an unknown number from another state. "Hello," answered Martha. There was a brief silence, followed by a hesitant female voice. "Mom, it's Lisa." Martha almost dropped the phone. It had been months since she had news from her daughter, just occasional postcards with no return address. "Lisa, is everything all right, honey?" "Yes, Mom, I saw a news story online about a trial in Springfield. I saw pictures of you and Emily at the courthouse." "Oh, yes, it was a difficult time, but it's over now. Emily is great now." The story mentioned a firefighter who saved her and also talked about him saving me years ago. Is that true? "Yes, it's the same man, Robert Collins. An incredible coincidence." There was another moment of silence. "Mom, I'm thinking about coming back. I miss you all so much, especially Emily. Do you think she would accept me back?" Martha felt tears in her eyes. "Your daughter asks about you every day, Lisa. Of course she would accept you back. I got a stable job here in Hartford. It's not far. I could visit on weekends initially, until I can get a transfer to Springfield." "That would be wonderful, honey. When do you plan to come?" "I can come next weekend, if that's okay with you all." After hanging up, Martha shared the news with Robert, who celebrated the possibility of Emily reuniting with her mother. "Do you think it will work out?" she asked, still worried. "Lisa has always been unstable, impulsive." "People change, Martha. Sometimes they need time and distance to realize what really matters. And if it doesn't work out immediately, three of you will have time to rebuild the bonds gradually." The following Saturday, Lisa arrived. The 27-year-old young woman seemed more mature than the rebellious girl who had left 3 years earlier. The reunion with Emily was emotional. The girl immediately recognized her mother from the photos Martha kept around the house. There were tears, tight hugs, and promises whispered into the small ear. More surprising was the meeting between Lisa and Robert. The young woman was shocked to recognize in that 42-year-old man the same firefighter who had carried her out of the burning school when she was just 14. "I never forgot your face," she said. "For years I had dreams where you carried me away from the fire, and now you've saved my daughter too." "I was just doing my job," replied Robert, with his usual humility. Life's coincidences are sometimes surprising. In the following weeks, Lisa kept her promise to visit every weekend. The relationship with Emily strengthened with each encounter. With Martha, the process was slower. There were old hurts, harsh words exchanged in the past, the pain of abandonment. But gradually, mother and daughter began to rebuild their relationship. Lisa also grew closer to Robert and his family. Tyler loved meeting Emily's aunt, as he came to call Lisa. Amanda, initially reserved, ended up befriending the young woman, especially after discovering a common interest in gardening. 4 months later, Lisa managed to get a transfer to Springfield. She rented a small apartment a few blocks from Martha's house, allowing Emily to spend some days with her, while still maintaining her school routine and her grandmother's constant presence. "I'm never going to try to take your place, Mom," Lisa assured Martha. "You're more of a mother to Emily than I ever was. I just want to have the chance to be part of her life too." This assurance helped Martha overcome the fear of losing the granddaughter she had raised since infancy. Gradually, the three women, grandmother, mother, and daughter, found a balance in their family dynamic. 1 year after the trial, Sunshine Daycare Center, now under new management, organized a graduation ceremony for the kindergarten students, including Emily. The small ceremony was held in the schoolyard, rebuilt after the fire with state-of-the-art safety systems. Robert was invited as the keynote speaker, a tribute to the firefighter, who had become a symbol of courage for the children. In his brief speech, he emphasized the importance of prevention and education about safety from childhood. When it was time for each child to announce what they wanted to be when they grew up, no one was surprised when Emily, dressed in her best dress with pink bows in her hair, declared in a firm voice, "I want to be a firefighter, to save people like Firefighter. Bob saved me." The declaration drew smiles and emotional applause from those present. Martha, Lisa, and Robert, sitting side by side in the front row, exchanged looks of pride. From tragic situations, sometimes new connections, new families, new dreams are born. After the ceremony, during the small reception in the schoolyard, the interim director presented to everyone the design of a monument that would be erected at the entrance of the daycare, a bronze plaque with the names of all the rescued children and a special dedication to the fire department. "We want this plaque to serve as a reminder that, in moments of crisis, the best of humanity can reveal itself," she explained, "and also as a symbol of our renewed partnership with the fire department to ensure that our children are always safe." The monument would be inaugurated the following month, coinciding with Emily's birthday. The date, previously marked by bittersweet memories for Martha and Lisa, would now also be a symbol of new beginnings and hope. In the following weeks, Robert made an important professional decision. After years working mainly in rescue operations, he requested a transfer to the educational department of the fire department. His goal was to expand the prevention project he had initiated, taking it to schools throughout the state. "I know you love the adrenaline of operations," commented Claire when he communicated his decision. "Are you sure about this?" "Absolutely. I've saved many lives throughout my career, and I'll continue saving. Only now, through education, perhaps I can prevent some people from needing to be rescued." The project grew rapidly, receiving support from the State Department of Education. Robert traveled to different cities, always accompanied by his little assistant when possible. Emily had become a kind of mascot for the program, enchanting other children with her story told in a simple and moving way. Amanda, seeing the positive impact that Robert's work had on Tyler's life and on the community, finally set aside the restrictions on her son's visits. Gradually, a relationship of mutual respect was re-established between the ex-spouses. Tyler, benefiting from this new balance, flourished in school and developed his own interest in accident prevention, often helping his father with presentations. Lisa, in turn, used her own experience to start a support group for young parents who felt overwhelmed by responsibilities. Her honesty about how she almost lost the chance to know her daughter resonated deeply with other young people in similar situations. "I almost lost the opportunity to see my daughter grow up because I thought I wasn't ready to be a mother," she shared in the meetings. "Today I understand that no one is completely ready, but everyone can learn and evolve with love and proper support." Martha, observing the positive transformations around her, finally felt at peace. Her family, previously fragmented by abandonment and uncertainties, was now stronger than ever, expanded by meaningful new connections. On a quiet afternoon, while Emily played in the garden under Lisa's watchful eye, Martha and Robert talked on the porch. "I never imagined that terrible day in court could lead to so many good things," she reflected, watching her granddaughter running happily, without any sign of the respiratory difficulties that had previously limited her. "Life, sometimes, surprises us," replied Robert. "When we're in the middle of the storm, it's hard to imagine that it could bring anything good. Like a fire that, despite the initial destruction, enables new growth," completed Martha. "Exactly. As a firefighter, I've seen many tragedies, but I've also seen extraordinary reconstructions, people coming together, communities strengthening." That same night, as she put Emily to bed, Martha noticed that the girl was thoughtful. "What is it, sweetheart? Are you worried about something?" "Grandma, When I grow up and become a firefighter, will I save many children like Firefighter Bob saved me? Martha smiled, adjusting the blanket. If that's what you really want, I'm sure you will. But you know, there are many ways to save people. Sometimes we save with brave actions like firefighters. Other times we save with words of truth like you did in court. And many times we save simply by being present in someone's life when that person needs it most. Like you were in my life, and Mommy's, yes dear, and like you were in ours. With a kiss on her granddaughter's forehead, Martha turned off the light, leaving only the small fire truck-shaped nightlight on. Through the crack in the door, she watched the girl fall asleep peacefully, safe and loved. The following week, during the inauguration of the plaque at Sunshine Daycare Center, Emily surprised everyone by asking to say a few words. Dressed in a miniature of the firefighter's uniform, a gift from Robert, she climbed on a small stool to reach the microphone. My name is Emily. I'm 6 years old now, and one day I'm going to be a firefighter. I know that firefighters are people who help other people, but sometimes they also need help, and all of us can help by telling the truth, being brave, and believing in them. Silent tears rolled down the faces of many present. The simple yet profound observation from a child who had experienced both danger and injustice especially touched those who had previously doubted Robert. At the end of the ceremony, a mother who had been particularly vocal against the firefighter during the trial period approached him, visibly emotional. Mr. Collins, I never properly apologized. I let myself be carried away by rumors and fear, without seeking the truth. You saved our children and then were treated unfairly for it. Robert, with the generosity that always characterized him, shook the woman's extended hand. What's important is that now we're all united by the same goal, ensuring the safety of our children. The past is behind us. This ability to forgive and move forward was one of the most important lessons Emily learned by observing her hero. Along with courage, honesty, and perseverance, they were values she would carry throughout her life. 2 months later, the daycare organized an educational field trip to the fire station as part of the new safety curriculum. The children were euphoric to visit the workplace of the now famous firefighter Bob. Emily naturally was the most excited of all. During the tour, each firefighter demonstrated a different aspect of their work. Claire showed how the personal protective equipment worked. Mark explained about the different types of fire extinguishers. And Robert, of course, talked about how to act in case of emergency. What's the first rule in case of fire? He asked the children. Don't hide, answered the children's chorus, with Emily leading in volume and enthusiasm. That's right, confirmed Robert. And why shouldn't we hide? Because it makes it harder for firefighters to find us, they answered. Emily raised her hand, wanting to add, I hid in the closet because I was very scared. But Firefighter Bob taught me that even when we're scared, we need to try to stay where firefighters can find us more easily. Her sincere comment perfectly illustrated the purpose of the visit, to transform a potentially traumatic experience into learning that could save lives in the future. At the end of the tour, each child received a junior firefighter certificate and a small first aid kit. Emily, in addition, was gifted with a special emergency whistle, which she immediately hung around her neck, solemnly promising to use it only in situations of real need. Lisa's return to her daughter's life continued to progress positively. After months of sharing Emily's time with Martha, mother and daughter finally found a routine that worked for everyone. During the week, Emily stayed with her grandmother, closer to school. On weekends and some evenings, she stayed at her mother's apartment, and there was always time for visits to the fire station, to Robert's educational project, or simply to play in the park with Tyler. The new family configuration, although unconventional, worked perfectly for them. Martha and Lisa, after many sincere conversations, some painful, had rebuilt their own mother-daughter relationship. Resentment gave way to understanding and, eventually, to a renewed sense of family. On a special Sunday afternoon, almost 18 months after the fire, everyone gathered for a barbecue in the small backyard of Martha's house. Robert and Tyler brought the meat and took care of the grill. Amanda brought a potato salad that had become everyone's favorite. Claire showed up with a homemade cake, and Lisa surprised everyone with the news that she had been accepted to the psychology program at the local college. "I want to help children who have gone through traumatic experiences," she explained. Seeing how Emily overcame all this inspired me. While the adults talked and the children played, Martha observed the scene with deep gratitude. From an event that could have ended in tragedy, an expanded family was born, united not by blood ties but by connections forged through courage, truth, and compassion. Emily, running around the yard with her emergency whistle hanging from her neck and her small firefighter helmet, personified resilience and the capacity for transformation. The girl who almost lost her life in a fire now dreamed of saving other lives. The child who trembled with fear in a courtroom now spoke confidently about the importance of truth. That night, while putting away the toys scattered after the party, Martha found a drawing made by Emily. It showed stylized figures of all the people present that day, holding hands, forming a protective circle around a small central figure, Emily herself. Below the drawing, with the irregular handwriting of a child who had just learned to write, were the words, "My family. They all saved me." Martha put the drawing on the refrigerator, alongside so many others, but this one would occupy a special place in her heart, as a permanent reminder that sometimes the most important rescues happen long after the initial emergency, in the small moments of truth, care, and love that we rebuild daily. The end of the story. Dear listener, were you moved by Emily and Robert's story? Tell us in the comments what touched your heart the most. If this narrative about courage and truth made you reflect, leave your like and subscribe to the channel to follow other heartwarming stories.